What's going on, everybody? We're back at it again with another video, and today's topic, we're going to be talking about the Fresno County market coming into spring 2025.
Yeah, just what to expect, not only with mortgage rates, but housing prices too, and then just preparing for what's to come.
Yeah, so for starters, we're going to give you kind of a breakdown of the stats that we're seeing, the data for the market. So the median sales price, $406,000. That's all of Fresno County, which includes like Sanger, Kerman, Fresno, Clovis, all of those cities. Average days on market, it's about 22 days. What would you say? That's pretty...
Yeah, I would say right now, as far as like where we're sitting, it just depends on how show ready or turnkey ready the home is. If it's showing really nice and the pictures look good, it's still selling within about the first 2 weeks. And then some stuff, depending on pricing or the marketing in itself, yeah, I would say that's pretty spot on. And then obviously you have the ones that very minimal marketing or just didn't show really well. They're taking a little bit longer. So I'd say average wise, that makes sense.
And then active listings sitting right around 2,000 with an increase from December. Now, why do houses get listed after December, Dylan?
So my take on that is during December, everyone's just, doing stuff for the holidays. The weather's not as nice. Don't get me wrong. In December, you get people that are more serious about buying or selling. So if they are moving, it's usually because they have to, not because they want to around that time, because it's usually not too fun to move around the holidays. So you definitely get a more serious buyer, a little bit more serious of a seller. But then as the weather starts to get nicer, Super Bowl's over, all the fun activities are pretty much over for the colder seasons. We start to roll back into that spring weather where people are liking to be outside, and it's a little bit easier to walk through homes when you don't got mud on your feet. So we'll see that number gradually go up, and then as soon as we hit summer, it'll definitely hit a little bit higher than that too.
And if you do got mud on your feet, put on some booties.
Yeah, or wipe them off on the doormat. Be courteous. You are walking through someone's house for sure.
So the market trend, we are still seeing demand outpace supply. So
for sure.
And this is where interest rates come into play. When rates do drop, we start to see a lot of buyers come out and start shopping for homes. So it's something to pay attention to.
Yeah, when the market shifts, you'll see a lot of buyers out there, and it's going to be really competitive. I mean, I can't stress that enough. Just like how we've seen in COVID, it may not be as strenuous as COVID, where you're seeing so many people pay over, but as the rates start to come down, competition obviously will increase as a buyer.
Next slide, where are interest rates headed in 2025? There's a lot of mixed information out there, a lot of predictions, but ultimately what we look at is the track record of what rates have done. So right now what we're currently seeing for FHA and VA loans are right in the high 5s, low 6s, depending on your credit score. Conventional loans were in the mid 6s to high 6s, again, depending on your credit score, depending on how much you put down. The prediction that I'm seeing right now is that rates are going to continue to cool off with the new administration in office demanding that rates get cut, and that's going to be a good thing for people who haven't sold yet, because they're also waiting for rates to come down. So, but like Dylan was talking about, lower rates creates more buyers creates more competition. And how has that impacted your journey in your career with your buyers?
As far as if we look at COVID alone, when the rates dropped, obviously we saw prices of homes go up because, again, there wasn't enough supply to meet the demand of the buyers because of how low the rates were. So when that happens, you start seeing people do money above appraisal gaps, meaning they're paying more than what the home is appraising for, or they're just coming in with full cash just to beat people out. Even though the rate's so low, they're buying with cash and then refinancing after they get into the home to not even have to deal with the competition. So people definitely bring out their big game when the rates drop as far as buyers. So you're going to be competing against heavy hitters. And then as sellers too, if there's still not enough supply, right? If there's not enough houses to go around, it's just going to be a situation for them to take advantage of, because not only will buyers be able to get a low rate for their home, sellers will be able to sell their home for a higher price dollar value as well.
So yeah, interest rates obviously have a huge impact on the activity. So spring 2025, do you think is going to be a seller or buyer's market?
I think unless we see any sort of uptick in housing, it's still going to be a similar situation where sellers have a little bit more sway. If the rates do come down to a low enough period where people start to feel comfortable with the pricing, they'll start dabbling back into the market. But as far as what to expect, I think that the sellers will still have, I don't want to say an upper hand, because if the rates drop, obviously you're getting a low interest rate, you're getting into the home for a lower payment. But if there's not enough to go around, they're going to have the bigger sway on, okay, well, can you find this elsewhere is kind of going to be the question, right? So I think we'll see sellers kind of leading the way as those rates start to drop.
Yeah, and then with rates, like Dylan has mentioned already, we see prices go up. So that's been the trend. We haven't seen prices come down in Fresno County. On average, we're seeing an increase by 5% a year.
Yeah, and a big part of that too is like if you're waiting for prices to crash, I mean, it's really two things, right? We obviously don't want people's home values to tank, right? That's not a good thing. That's not a good thing to bank on. And then two, at the same time, there's really no end in sight as far as them crashing or dropping, right? After COVID, we did see them kind of settle off. They weren't appreciating so fast because the demand had dropped, right? So it wasn't necessarily the value disappeared. It's just there wasn't so many people buying anymore once they went up. So that's a challenge too for buyers, right? The competition when it goes up. If you can get into a home sooner, right? Even though the rate may be a little bit higher, less competition, you get into the home, and then when rates do drop, you're able to refinance.
So we're going to emphasize this. Competition requires buyers to be pre-approved and be ready to act
For
fast.
sure. That's a key thing. Yeah, a good way to point that out, Edgar, because if you do want to buy a house and you are serious about it, getting the pre-approval is like the most serious you can show. It's kind of like your Willy Wonka golden ticket telling us like, hey, I want a house. Like, please do whatever you got to do to get me a house. And then we go to town for you. But without that pre-approval, if you find a house on Thursday and you need to get pre-approved that weekend, Edgar, he's a great lender. He's probably going to still get you pre-approved, but obviously we don't want him to have to be, if he's at the park with his kids, going home to pull up the laptop in the middle of the day or at 7 p.m. at night when he's at dinner to make sure that you get pre-approved before the weekend's over. I'll tell you right now, other lenders aren't going to do that. Edgar's just phenomenal. So don't expect that out of everybody. So definitely come prepared, be pre-approved. So when that house does pop up, you're not missing out, because I can guarantee you when the rates drop by Monday, that house will already be in escrow or pending if it went up on Thursday. That's just how it works.
That is true. I've seen it happen so many times and it sucks.
Yeah, it's definitely a depressing feeling, especially if you go see the house on Thursday and you fall in love with it, and then you can't get all of your bank statements, W-2s, everything from your employer in time to get pre-approved, and then you just got your hopes up. It's a really disheartening feeling. So we don't want you to have to go through that. So just be prepared. It's a very simple step to take with Edgar, and we can get you through it.
So we've been talking about buyers. Now, what does this mean for sellers?
Yeah, so for sellers and not buyers, just tune out for a second. For sellers, this is going to be very good for you because obviously buyers is great for you too, but sellers, when rates drop, you have the sway, like I've been talking about, is if there's not enough supply to meet this is very simple economics, right? Supply and demand. There's not enough supply to go around, but we have this huge demand. What's going to happen to the supply? It's going to go up, right? It's going to go up in pricing right now. So that's what I'm seeing is going to happen, unless all of a sudden we just have an influx of houses, which is very, very highly unlikely, because when we talk about interest rates in the past 4 years, I think it's over 78% of Americans have less than like a 4% interest rate. So you're not seeing too many people that are needing to sell off their home because, one, when they got into their home, they got a good enough payment, or two, in the years that COVID has passed, their home appreciated so much that they're able to sell out their home and probably still get a little bit of equity if they got in a financial crutch. So you're not seeing like this influx of pre-foreclosures, foreclosures, or more than what you would normally see, if you will. So those are key things to look at. So for sellers, it's going to be a great time for you to sell in the spring of 2025, probably all the way through summer.
Yeah, and one thing I've noticed too is that sellers kind of have the same mindset of selling around the same time of the year.
For sure. Yeah.
And what I've noticed too is when you have too many houses going up for sale on the same street, on the same neighborhood, the same block, you're kind of now...
you're increasing your supply,
Yeah. You want to be ahead of your neighbors before, because then you're the only option and you're going to get multiple offers there. Right?
That's a good point too. Yeah. So like if your neighbor's house goes up and then you decide you've been talking about selling yours, and then now there's kind of coincides with the same timeline as yours, everyone that wanted to live on that area is now deciding between your two homes. So now you're having to differentiate whether your home is either nicer or the price is better, right? How can you be more competitive than the house next to you? So kind of beating them to the cusp of that can help you sometimes too as a seller, especially right now. Again, still low supply. Sellers, it's still a good time to sell. There's not as many buyers in the market as there will be when the interest rates drop, but again, still a great time to sell if you're a seller.
Yeah, and for investors too, this is a great time to get those houses renovated, put on the market as well. That's one thing we've noticed too, is that when a house is completely renovated, you're
Yeah.
gonna get top dollar for it, because you're essentially offering a great product to a buyer that goes into the house not having to do anything. They don't have to go to Home Depot for anything. And
This is a good point.
Yeah,
This is a good point.
Move in ready.
It's good to go. And I'm glad you said that too, Edgar, because if you are a seller and you have a home, and I don't want you to take this to heart, because everyone's $1 million home in their mind is completely different, right? We all live different. But as far as marketing goes, you're definitely going to want to talk to your agent about what's the best point of view to take, because just because rates drop and the increase of buyers is going to go up, or the buyer is going to go up, right? The buyer pool, it doesn't mean you can just throw any product on the market and it's going to sell. So just because houses are flying off the shelves, if that does start happening, it doesn't mean that you can just put anything up and it's going to sell. You still need to deliver a good product that people are going to be happy with.
I talk to buyers all the time, and they tell me, if only it had newer floors, or only this, or only of that.
And sometimes it's simple. I mean, I've had someone say that they didn't like a red wall, and that's an easy fix. I offer to just fix it myself, right? Because it's so simple. But even fresh paint, a little bit of pine sol, baby, all that will do some good for you. You know,
That's right.
It will take care of you.
So, I mean, that's the end of our slides. But one thing we did want to talk about is affordability. Going back to that median sales price being at $406.
Yeah.
And I just ran some quick numbers just to kind of give you guys an idea of what payment to expect. So here's that slide there. So if you're buying a house right now for $406,000 and you did an FHA loan, 3.5% down, your estimated monthly payment is going to be around $3,191. That includes taxes, insurance, mortgage insurance, so just shy of $3,200. Conventional, if you did 20% down, you're right around $2,900. And then if you did 5% down conventional, you're right around like $3,227. So they're pretty close to each other, the FHA and conventional 5% down. It's my job to figure out which one makes sense for you. There's some pros and cons to each one. It just depends on your scenario.
Yeah, and everyone's scenario is different, right? So depending on if you already own a home, if this is your first time buying a house, if you're an investor, Edgar's going to be one of the best guys you could talk to, because essentially what we're trying to do is discover all the options that are available to you, and then talk with you, through that consulting period to figure out which is the best avenue for you to take, right? Because we want everything to be in front of you. You have all the knowledge to choose what's the best decision for you and your family, right? So that's a good point, Edgar, bringing up to the different down payments and all that.
To put a bow on it, I think 2025 springtime is going to be hot. The market's going to heat up.
Yeah.
We're going to see a lot of activity, and we're excited.
Definitely excited. I'm excited for the sun to come out. I know I don't like to give in to what people say when it's like the segment of how it usually goes, like how winter everything's slow, summer it gets busy. It does happen though, right? Because everyone's thinking like, oh, I'll list in the springtime, or oh, I'll list when kids get out of school in summer. So you can expect as the year takes off that those months will start to be more impactful as far as real estate goes. And yeah, I think it's going to be a big year. I think it's going to be a great year. And if you guys need anything from us, of course, we're always here for your questions and here to help.
Reach out to us, subscribe to our channel.
Yeah, definitely.
Follow us on Instagram. We're going to keep bringing more information to you guys, to the marketplace.
Every week.
Yeah, every week, baby. So thank you guys for tuning in again.
Yeah.
And we'll see you on the next one.
Take care.